I moved to US, and then I guess I got older and I saw how important that was. And then when I moved back to Brazil, he asked me to join the organization. And so I've helped creating the organization in Portugal. I helped talking to different companies. So yes. So are we live, Natalia?
Yes, we are
okay. Ok, perfect. Uma mensagem muito rápida, pessoal. Meu nome é Nicole, faço parte da Ruth. Esse painel sobre negócios de amanhã, ele vai ser mediado em inglês, porque a gente tem pessoas aqui ao redor do mundo. Então, a gente não vai conseguir fazer a tradução simultânea, mas vai ser um material divulgado depois, com a legenda em português, para quem quiser assistir. Alrighty. So, hello guys. Thank you for being here. It is such an honor. So we have today here with amazing people with solutions for the planet and our ocean. So we have Bernardo from Ocean Refresh. We have Hilda, who's part of International Development Consultant, who is Harshit, who is the CEO of Aqua British Limited, and then Dia, who's from Aqua and Rock. I would ask Bernardo, can you please introduce yourself with a brief explanation on who you are and what you do?
So hi everybody. So yeah, my name is Bernardo. I'm from Ocean Refresh, a UK company. I'm Brazilian. I'm a half Brazilian. We use plastic, and we use a collection of plastic to produce different types of products, mainly flip-flops. And we help clean up the beaches across the world. That's what we do in a nutshell.
Hey, I see a flip-flop back there. Do you mind showing it to us?
No, so there they are. These are the famous flip-flops. So yeah, it's a project that's been ongoing, and we have been going for just over a year now. We're based here in Manchester in the UK. We work with different institutions across the world, mainly in Brazil, factory being in Brazil. We brought the project over to the UK last year, and it's doing really well. Obviously, with the current situation in the world, has slowed down businesses, but what we're trying to achieve is to give the opportunity of business to offsetting their footprint, and looking for alternatives on fashion. Obviously, being more conscious on how they buy their product, where the product is coming from, or where it's manufactured, how it's shipped, how it's delivered, packaging, and etc. So we've put all of that together to deliver something in a different way to our clients across the world.
That's pretty incredible. Thank you, Bernardo. Hilda, would you mind introducing yourself for us, please, and what you do? Hilda, I think you're on mute. Can you hit the button?
There you go. So yeah, hi. So first of all, thank you very much, Nicole, for the introduction. I am in Germany, and I am an international development consultant now working for Biofabrik. Biofabrik is a high technology company based in Dresden. And what we do is that they developed a machine, a container, basically a 40-foot container, where you put in a single-use plastic and it converts it into fuel or energy. Okay. I had been working in international development environmental programs, and of course, like I hear you, Nicole, plastic has been always the main issue forefront in my life, and always having creative ways to do it. But having found this solution, which is really comprehensive, you have a lot of programs, a lot of recycling programs around the world where you convert PET, which is plastic bottles, which is easy to recycle, all over the world. You have campaigns to do that. But the other plastic, the single-use plastic, the plastic bags, and it's really difficult to recycle. So this company has targeted this plastic, particular plastic, to recycle it. So we do not take plastic bottles. We take only single-use plastic containers, chip bags, this kind. This kind of bags, which are really the huge problem. And the company last year in June received all the permits to produce this machine massively. So since last year, we have started to produce, and we have had a great aperture for this technology. Unfortunately, with this COVID, of course, we were a little bit slowed down, but I do see a lot of potential in a lot of programs, a lot of projects around the world where, for example, they clean rivers. Yeah, so you have a program to clean rivers, but what happens once you clean the river? You take all the plastic out. You don't have a profitable solution to finish this process. So there is where you can have this machine, you can process the plastic, and you can sell your fuel, creating a perfect circular economy. I have another example where we are looking at Bangladesh, where you have refugee camps. Refugee camps, people cannot work. So you can create a circular economy where people start picking up plastic and selling the plastic. And that way you inject some money into society, and the process is financed by the selling of this fuel. So in a nutshell, we're taking a plastic waste, the most undesirable plastic waste, and we're converting it into energy.
Wow, that really is incredible. Wow, I have so many questions for you.
And you know, one thing which is the incredible part is that you take 1 kilogram of plastic and it converts it in more or less 1 liter of fuel. So it's almost 1-to-1.
Wow, so it's not like a lot of plastic and a little bit of fuel. That's pretty cool. That's incredible. Thank you, Hilda. I will definitely be making some questions later for you. I would ask Harshit to introduce himself, please, and what you do.
Hi everyone, I'm the founder and CEO of AquaBritish. AquaBritish is created with one aim: to fight against plastic pollution. So we are the first water brand of Great Britain which produces 100% biodegradable water bottles. From caps to label, everything is 100% biodegradable. So we make our bottles from sugarcane, corn extracts, and we don't use any oil in making the bottles. We're not using any chemical. And we are also so whatever we sell the bottles, we plant 100% profit goes to in planting trees. In hunger strike for the children's, we work with a lot of charities. We work with the Amazon reforestation program. We do charities with them. We plant trees. And this is what about our water brand. And we created our water brand in 2019 December. And since from now, we have been partnered with more than 110 hotels around UK. So we are with the IHG group. We are also work in the France with the Monte Carlo Society. We work with the premium gyms. We work with the vegan supermarkets. So this is about my water brand.
That's really cool. And you're based where again?
I'm based in UK, England, London.
UK. Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you, Harshit. And then I'll ask Dia to share with us who you are and what you do, please. You're also on mute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dia Baker. I'm a founder of Aqua & Rock, which is a sustainable fashion brand. So lots of girls may like to hear. We make lovely, beautiful clothes. And one thing, when I started the company just over a year ago, after my daughter made a comment, "Mummy, my generation will have to solve the problem your generation created with plastic." So I kind of looked at it, what can I do as one sort of individual? And looking at obviously problems with fast fashion, that was one problem that was obviously for me as a little individual, a little bit too big task to tackle. So I started a completely different approach. One thing I've noticed in the UK, there's a lot of projects around the world where people are collecting plastic and recycling. People are getting better, and certain countries are very, very good at recycling plastic. But what the problem was, what do you do? That problem, what do you do once you actually collected that recycled plastic? That was a big issue in the UK. So I kind of started looking and doing a little bit of research as what I can do if with my brand, Aqua and Rock. So I'm starting to kind of talk with more companies and almost kind of realize it's a little underground of independent and sustainable companies, and we can get together. And then we developed a fabric, a tri-blend, whereby from recycled plastic, we make yarn, which is made in Spain, and then we blend it with a natural material yarns like silk, wool, it could be cotton. So we blended it, and once we had the fabric, then we started to design. And what I've noticed that most sustainable brands design wasn't really very, very good. And sustainable material was quite expensive. So to launch it on the market and to find fast fashion wasn't easy. So then again, I started to branch out as a company somewhere else, started to work with Ocean Refresh. We met at a particular event and we started to design not just the clothing, we're now moving to shoes. And I can show you one of our beautiful designs because we are partnering with a worldwide artist to beautiful shirts, also T-shirts for our beaches when it's very, very hot. And the recent thing, we started to do art trainers from old masters, where the surface and top is made from recycled fabric, i.e. plastic and polyester from clothing. Because one thing we want to do, because we've noticed that a lot of fast fashion, in particularly online e-commerce sites, 25% of their stock goes straight into landfills. So one of the things we do, we take clothes that is, instead of diverting them from the landfills into a factory where they kind of then obviously turn them into a new yarn. So the clothes that have been abandoned, we're basically putting them back onto a market. And we don't do fast fashion, we only produce what we need. We don't have a wastage because the stock control is pretty tight, and we only produce for the particular season. Normal fashion brands would plan a year in advance, and because they don't know exactly what's going to happen, they accept the fact that 25% will be a waste, which is a huge percentage overall. On average, one of those big fashion companies, they would fill in one landfill a year. That's just from the fashion industry. So I've started it, and in sort of recent 6 months, we sort of started to grow at quite a rate, because people are more and more thinking what they're going to buy and what they're going to wear. And that's even certain mini markets whereby people are just now going, companies, and getting together and saying, look, don't just buy clothes, you need the bottles, you need shoes, you need clothes, packaging, everything now needs to have that sustainable message. And think about waste, i.e. plastic. We can't just dump it in a sea. So yes, that's how all things started with me anyway.
I just want to say you have a very smart daughter. I don't know how old she was, but she's very smart. Quick
Teenager.
Question. Perfect. What is the name of your company again?
Aqua and Rock. Aqua and Rock.
Aqua and Rock. That's great. It's pretty incredible that I think all of us here are thinking not just about the plastic or the waste or the trash out in the oceans or in our landfills, for example, but what to do after that, right? I think we all have that in common. So I'm pretty proud of it. The panel today is we are talking about business of tomorrow. So I want to start asking you guys, to you personally, in your perspective, in your standpoint, what is the business of tomorrow? One, go ahead, Hilda, please. You're on mute, by the way. There you go.
What a great question, first of all. And I was just, before coming into this panel, I was really thinking about that. And one of the things that I comes to my mind immediately after this pandemic as well is that the business of tomorrow has to have a great deal of solidarity. And when I mean solidarity, I mean also it has to be profitable. But for example, producers, let's say a yogurt producer, should take responsibility from their product, not only from the quality of the product that they're bringing to the market, but as well from the package. So it's not only delivering a good product, a tasty flavor, a tasty yogurt, but rather what do we do with the packaging? So creating circular economies where also the responsibility is shared between the producers of plastic packaging, the consumer, and also the government. So we have a shared responsibility. So the government, by creating programs that will support recycling, or or even in local communities, local municipalities, creating circular economies around plastic. The private industry, supermarkets, they could create great campaigns where they can ask people to bring back the plastic. This is what we are really looking into, to partner with local supermarkets where we can have campaigns so they can bring back all the packaging that normally ends up in dumpsters. And the huge food chains can actually take this plastic and recycle it. Either convert it into fuel, like is the solution that we are offering, and this fuel can be turned into energy for their cooling systems or whatever they want to use it for, or whichever other way of recycling possible. But the point is taking responsibility from the origin to the end. We don't need to. So the business for tomorrow has to look beyond just giving quality product to the consumer, but rather taking responsibility for the product from the beginning until the end.
Pretty incredible. Thank you, Hilda. That was really great. Do we have any other answers on what the business of tomorrow is?
Okay, I was just going to say I completely agree with Hilda in regards to taking responsibility, because when I've started, not only have how my t-shirt's going to look like, I had to think about, right, how it's going to be packaged. What's that? What kind of material the boxes are going to be? Are they recycled? Is it whether I need to protect my garments when I send them in something that is waterproof, not necessarily be plastic, and if it is plastic, what do we treat? So I completely agree with that. But one thing which, with this coronavirus pandemic, what I've found and what happened to us in the last 2 months, it was quite interesting. It's a solidarity. There is a company called Project Sessa in Holland, where it's a sales channel for similar companies like Bernardo, Ocean Refresh, and myself. And I came across quite a number of companies who we complement each other. So we started to share resources, supporting who knows which suppliers. It wasn't anymore, in what I've noticed in fast fashion, it's all about secrets, who knows what, and all about cutting prices. And suddenly we had a completely different approach. We're starting to share resources, help, and starting to working together, where there could be from little things, do you know a particular designer, or where is the factory? And that, I think, is the way forward, because that, first of all, help everyone to keep the cost down, because what Hilda said, we need to be profitable. So we just need to find a different way to run the business. And for me as a business, to finding and expanding my product range with the similar companies like ours, it can just help us to grow. And I think that's the way forward. It's not this corporate competition. I think that's why we're in this state as we are now, with the sort of environmental issues that are very, very serious and affecting this planet. So that's the way I think we need to work together and collaborate a lot more and share resources.
That's pretty awesome. I was actually thinking not only on a fashion or even just sustainability standpoint for the oceans or the environment, but businesses are made out of people, and if people in general are not thinking how to share resources, how to share ideas, how to share thoughts, and regardless the industry, I really truly think that businesses are made of people. I mean, that's a fact, right? And if people are not sharing, if they're not in a sharing mindset, then they will never be able to share resources. So I totally agree. I think what Hilda said before of companies being responsible, I think there's a little bit of a consumption responsibility, as well as having technologies and systems to help doing reverse logistics, for example, which is another subject that I'm really into, but also having people being able to share. I think that's fantastic. Do we have any other answer to that question?
I think with COVID, I think we've learned a lot. I think what's just happened to the world has taught us to share, to have discussions like we're having now with other professionals, to understand, because we had no choice. We're not taking that for granted anymore. And I think it's very important to take that forward, that you are sharing ideas, you are putting ideas forward. And like you said, Nicole, I think we've got to listen to the people, and the people have got to teach us, and we've got to teach them how to buy, and they've got to teach what they want. But it's got to be a responsible buy. I think consumers will change the market after this big COVID crisis is finished. People will buy differently. People will be cautious from what markets they'll be buying it from, what materials they're buying. And they will be buying materials. They will be paying perhaps a little more, but the materials that they actually buy, they want it to last longer. Whilst before, they would just buy a material, throw it away after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because they bought it for $10 or £10 or whatever. Now they'll be spending $20, $25 on a pair of sandals that will last them a year, 2 years. But it's not the point of just at that point of buying that product, which is what we do here at Ocean Refresh, is what you're going to do with the product afterwards. How you as a company have set up for that person to give you the product back and you can recycle it. So there's with the Ocean 360 program, which we're putting in place, for instance, the person we're going to have point of sale, point of collection in shops where people can give their sandals back, where we'll recycle it and make it into different products, so that it never goes back into landfills, or it never goes back into the ocean. And I think in fashion in general, not just with flip-flops, but with shoes, with shirts, with trousers, with everything, is the end. I think Hilda mentioned that it's the whole process, the 360 process of the actual person that's actually buying, and then the company's responsibility to make sure that actually that process is put in place.
That's great, Bernardo. Thank you for your answer. Do we have any other answers to share here about what's the business of tomorrow? If not, we can go to the next one.
I think so. Business of tomorrow is related to sustainable. So as you see, like in the pandemic and coronavirus, how things are changing. And I think so people are getting more environment conscious, which I've seen like since lockdown, they're getting more environment conscious, and they want something like related to sustainable. Like now they are addicted now, because after the lockdown when happened, so you see now there is no more pollution, there is no more air pollution, and everyone wants to stay now in the clean environment. And for me, the business of tomorrow is related to sustainability, everything related to greener. So that's what I see as a business of tomorrow. And since after that, like people now, as I'm seeing, like our UK government, they are coming up with so many green grant schemes where they are pushing like businesses, those who are into the vegan things, are into the greener things, greener projects. If it's about EV charging stations, or if it's about energy, green energy, or if it's about any greener products. So they are pushing us by the grant scheme. And for me, business of tomorrow is sustainable. That's what I see is.
I totally agree. I think the businesses of tomorrow should have in mind their profit and sustainability. I don't
Exactly.
think profit is necessarily more important than sustainability. Although, I mean, we won't have a planet for us to profit from if we're not sustainable, right? So I totally agree with you. And I think, thinking as you guys were talking about business of tomorrow, my perspective is business of tomorrow have to start today. And that's one of the reasons why you're here today. And I am very happy to be talking to you guys. I know it's not easy building this future, and I know there's a lot of issues. And that leads to my second question, which is looking at the barriers. So looking at a business model standpoint, right? I can see there are barriers such as society behavior, government, consumption, and here we are with amazing global solutions. I have 4 here, but throughout my past years, I've met with like 50, 60 amazing solutions. And what are the barriers for us to get there? And not only for the business, but for society to consume from that, from society to consume from that fashion industry, for example, or thinking about the products they own and where the plastic is going. What are the barriers in your perspective that we have today for us to get there?
Well, I can talk certainly about from the fashion industry, from my personal experience. Fashion industry is dominated by fast fashion, obviously cheap manufacturing in Far East, and we all know what a horrible side that is, from not paying the workers, polluting the planet. It is just one horrible, ugly industry. But a lot of money, a lot of investment went into it, you see. And the fashion industry, people who invested money, and we're talking billions, they're not just going to walk away from it and suddenly say, right, I'm just going to write that off and I'm just going to now put into sustainable. In our case, it's money. And one thing, because we are quite small, we cannot offer to retail chain, we can't offer the same margin as a fast fashion, you see. Because we manufacture in Europe, and the yarn we buy, obviously, because the quantities are not as large as a cheap polyester fast fashion fabric, we are more expensive. So when it comes down to going into the chain of retailers, it's very difficult for us to compete. They established and they're not and they're not giving us away. We want to encourage and educate customers and consumers. Yes, you do have to pay a bit more. And I know approximately a year ago, and I do hope the situation is getting better. But only a year ago, I went to a big chain and trying to offer the collection and talk about stocking and putting aqua and rock on their shop floor. And they said, yeah, all you're saying is absolutely great, but sustainability is not on our priority list. Now, we're just kind of going, are you sure? Are we still having the same? So what I'm hoping that in light of all of the COVID virus, that suddenly, I think the priorities have changed, because it was absolutely shocking for me to hear that big names actually were, quite frankly, putting in writing, sending emails, that's not on the list of our priority, what it is, the profit was. And I think that has to change. We cannot go back the way we were. So what I'm saying, and the same goes into any other industry, when we're talking from a bottle, so probably all the industry will not gonna just give away because they said it's the huge amount of money is at stake and it's gonna take time, but it's down to customers to put the pressure.
See, I totally agree with especially that vision of it's down to the customers. I want to share my view really quick before I ask the other guests. See, the way I see it is the industries, we're always complaining about the industry and the government, and I totally agree. There's so many wrong things happening. They are looking at profit. But I believe that industries are created and led by consumption. So if all of a sudden we were talking about, the future, like bright business in the future, if in my perspective, everyone decided to look at what they're buying, why they're buying, where is it going, who's making, what's going to happen to the planet. If that happened, the industries, although they don't care, they're not sustainable, they will be obligated to start looking at that and obligated to give reports to the people. So, power to the people. I know that's a very common sentence and it's kind of silly, but it's true. Like industries, I know they're massive. And I know if the government had something like top down where everyone had to start thinking, the industries had to pay like large fees, that would be great. But if people decided, if they knew that the power was in their hands, things would change and it would be beautiful. So I totally agree with what you said about the power being the consumer. That's my perspective. I would like to know yours. Bernardo, do you have anything to share? Hilda, I think you're on mute again.
Okay. Listen,
no.
Bernardo, go ahead.
No, you go first. You go first.
Well, excellent question and great point there, Dea, because really the fashion industry is a very good example. And I mean, Nicole, what you're saying, it's so true. But at the same time, I think that it is time to really have public-private cooperation, honest public-private cooperation, because the public sector can have a great impact in creating infrastructure within cities, within communities, to actually have to come about change in terms of waste disposal. So they have a great power. On the other hand, the private sector, huge companies, they have the capacity to use what we call social responsibility funds, for example, to actually invest in real sustainable solutions. And then comes the public, the people that come with great solutions and great ideas like Bernardo's and like Dea, and like Hashid, where great solutions come and emerge out of this need. So there is a lot of problems, but I think that it is a time to have this marriage, to coordinate public and private cooperation, and also to every company should be a social entrepreneur, because right now, during this COVID-19 crisis, we have seen that we are so connected. So if we need to look for the well-being of everybody. So it's okay to make millions, no problem, to make a profit, to be an entrepreneur, to make money. But come on, we can also have a side of responsibility into our profits. So I definitely see a lot of problems, but I see a lot of great perspectives where we can have very creative solutions moving forward.
Great. Bernardo, you meant to answer.
So mine was a really quick one. It was just to say, I think Hilda mentioned on that. I think of the big companies, I think one of the biggest one that we can talk of, especially on plastic, is Coca-Cola. And some of the biggest polluters in the world, and it's working with them together with us and showing them the ideas, but they're blinded in terms of business and of making profit and etc. Going forward. So is approaching big companies that are polluting the most, and obviously talking to them and obviously presenting solutions and showing them the path, if you know what I mean. It's hard to get through to them. I think that's the main problem. And the consumer has the upper hand, because what I find with consumer, are they prepared to pay a little bit more in today's world? At the end of the day, you've got to. There's a Brazilian maker flip flops, which I'm not going to mention the name. Really famous.
But we all know.
We all know
You don't
it.
have to mention it.
Yeah. But then obviously we've got Ocean, which is being brought out to resolve a problem, a current world crisis problem that we have today. But who would, if you put that on a shelf, and I got asked that question, and especially with the current crisis, because you're so limited with shelf space, online space, because the people have got so much stock, because they weren't able to sell because of the world has been closed down for the last 3 or 4 months. So if they had to stock my product and make a difference and help a small company and make the difference of what we are trying to achieve, or stock the other brand that we don't have to talk about now, which one would they stock? They would stock the other brand. You know why? Because that sells. No one knows my brand yet, but the other one sells. So it's up to the consumer to want to see that and want to make that change, and more than anything else, I think it's not just the companies, but it's the consumer. I think Nicole has mentioned that at the end of the day, everything is on the consumer hands, because people wouldn't stock something that you wouldn't buy. It's as simple as that. People would not buy. I mean, if you only stock a product or a certain element or something, if people are buying it. If people stop buying it, it's the same with plastic cups, plastic bottles, straws, everything that we consume on an everyday basis. If you drink out of straws, people buy it and keep it. If you stop eliminating the problem from the market, people will stop buying it, and we will start making a change. And that's the way I think it. The only person, obviously companies will make that change, but the only actual person that can actually make that physical change is the actual person itself, the consumer.
That's pretty powerful, and it almost answers the third question I had. Before I move on, is there anyone who would like to say anything else about our barriers?
I think so. For the new businesses like us, like startups, like we really go so many challenges, so many barriers with. When we're trying to do something innovative for the environment, I tell about our story. When we created Aquabidish last year, I was very much confident that we are creating something plastic free from caps to label, and I was very confident we're gonna approach to hospitality sector, we're gonna approach to the leisure sector, we're gonna approach to supermarkets. But things was not like that. We really went through so many challenges. The pricing was the main issue for us. Everyone wants to have our vegan bottles, but the challenge was price for them. They want the vegan bottle, but they don't want to pay for that. So this is something like I went through and still going through with so many challenges. And then they don't give attention to the new brands. They give the attention to the more old brands. If any, like for example, we heard like last week in the Guardian newspaper that Coke and Carlsberg also coming in the plant-based bottles. So they will get stock very easily because they are a big brand. And same, we are doing it as a first water brand. We didn't get that basically priority as they gonna get it. So these are the barriers which we are facing, and the pricing is the main issue, because in the startup we have limited production, so we cannot beat their prices. There they do in very peanuts price, but for us it costs like so much. So these are the barriers for us for the new businesses, which we're going through a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If I may say something. What Hilda said before in terms of cooperation between private and the public sector, I completely agree. And we need, government should stand behind the sustainable companies a lot more than it has in the past. And changing consumer habits actually is not that hard. And we have these samples here in UK with smoking banned. Smoking is an addiction, but then it's now 20 years ago and it just happened and people just accept it. The same recently, not long ago in UK, government said no more plastic straws. And that's just vanished. And I said, but it needs to get bigger. And government needs to support, and as I said, one talk is, and it hasn't been enforced, that the fast fashion brands will be taxed more if they put into landfill clothes. So those are and that's why they would, smaller companies like us who can't offer the same pricing structure as a big established company, we need to be on equal footing. And I think there's a government role to help us in that way. They put us on an equal footing. So when they do retail chain come and kind of needs to make a decision, they needs to make it the right decision. Because at the moment, the only decision then, the only way they're actually making their decision is on the price point. And we can't compete with that.
I mean, I would add something to her. You know, in France, in different countries, you have this, for example, subsidies in France for the cheese or for the local products.
Yeah.
So local producers, people that are producing products in a sustainable, or are contributing in a sustainable way to this industry could also be subsidized. Why not?
Yeah, I agree.
So,
It's same thing in Spain, the factory that we get a yarn from in Spain that makes from recycled plastic that is collected from the beaches. So it's kind of, so that actually plastic goes directly into my clothes. They got a subsidy from the European community, but these are really rare. This needs to be a standard now. That's what I'm saying. We can't have this rare occasion, one in one country and another. It needs to become a standard. This needs to be a new normal. We can't go back to the way that we were.
Listen, there we're not.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on.
You know why? Because I just want to add something to that point, which is there are certifications today in Europe where you have social plastic certifications. So products that are made with plastic that was, brought from the ocean, etc. So this kind of certifications are very important, and subsidies for companies that are actually using this kind of plastic or producing products with a plastic that has been taken out of the oceans or out of dump fills or whatever. Go ahead, Bernardo.
Yeah, that was one of the points I was gonna touch on, because when you were importing, for instance, my sandals are made in Brazil. So there's no classification for import because we use it, because there isn't any. So we're still paying 4% duty and 4% VAT when the product comes into the UK. Yeah. Because you can apply for a ruling, which then obviously, if you get accepted for that product to be less duty or zero duty because you're using recycled materials, but it's because it's such a new way of producing shoes, and the way I'm doing it, I get taxed the same as everybody else. Yeah,
that's pretty horrible. Well, I think what you said, I think that comes up to a government issue and then also a possible solution. So my third question, well, before I do my third question right now, I just would like to share that Thiago Pais just commented and recommended the movie and the book Story of Stuff. I personally have never seen it. I don't know if you guys have, but I will. So just recommending to everyone. My third question, so looking up at all those barriers and looking up at, this amazing future, how do we remove them? How do we remove the friction to build this amazing future? Now we have a comment here that talks about the Industry 4.0, which is pretty interesting because Industry 4.0, I mean, it goes from production and then machines and technology, but it also talks about lean manufacturing, which in theory, it only manufactures what it's demanded. Now, I know that will probably be a barrier because the demand is big, because consumption is just like crazy, but still won't be. I think someone mentioned that 25% goes to landfills because they project more. I believe it was Hilda before, or Dia before, who said that.
Yeah, 25%.
Yes. So I think with Industry 4.0 will be better, but still, I don't believe it's to be the solution, but it's definitely going to help. And before I have your answers on how do we remove those barriers, I was just wondering, what's your point on, and I think that will be somewhat part of the solution or not, what's your point on big companies? So instead of the government or instead of an association, so big companies like the one we are not going to mention, but the very Brazilian flip-flops, if they started funding smaller companies that technically are competitors, but for example, you're still gonna pay the same amount of taxes, because let's say the government is not doing anything, but they realize they have to do something sustainable. Like Harshit said before, companies will look at sustainability. So what if they start giving you money and looking at projects that will help, or even better, try to buy you? What do you think about that? What do you think about big industries deciding to buy small companies because of what they do, and they're gonna tell Bernardo, I want to buy your company because people decided to consume better. I have no idea how to do it. I want you to run it. It's not gonna change. You're gonna do the same exact thing, but you're gonna have marketing resources. You're gonna have, I don't know, like you're gonna be able to produce as many flip-flops as you need to with operations and manufacturing and technology. Do you think that's part of a solution? And I just want to see if it's yes or no, and then you can tell me what are the other solutions, please.
How big is the checkbook?
Make me an offer I can't refuse.
Do you want a pen?
I mean, guys, we were just talking about companies looking at profits.
This is something that happens in past, particularly in the IT industry. So it happens in any industry where big companies sometimes they buy smaller startup in innovation to shut it down because they feel threatened. And sometimes they embrace it, and because they realize if they want to survive even as a big business, because big businesses, in particular in the fashion, lots of them during this coronavirus failed and gone into administration. So sometimes it depends how the companies run. They can actually embrace and start working with smaller companies and startups who are doing the things the right way. It's not a lot, but what I'm hoping, there's going to be a lot more big companies who will invest into innovation and into sustainability, and look at what the other companies like us are doing. So that would be a nice future for all of us.
Well, you know what? I have seen a huge company. I'm not going to say the name. It's a company that is making food, yogurt, actually. Mm-hmm. And they are really moving in a sustainable, responsible direction. So I have tried.
Is it French or German?
Well, I'm not going to say it because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, French.
So because if it's everywhere, I think that it is important to have this kind of leadership that is showing a different way of doing business. Yeah. So I think it's okay. It's nothing wrong with being big or small, and I think that your power to change the world is bigger if you're bigger.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, something happened to my internet. I think probably some big industry was listening to my conversation here, and it took out my internet. Some spy here, so I'm sorry about that, Bernardo. All I heard was, how big is the check? And then I was out.
You know who that was, don't you? Is she out?
I do know. And if you guys continue, please. I'm sorry that something happened here, but if you can continue answering those questions.
Do you want to talk us about the barriers then? How to remove them?
I have 3 checks here. No, I'm kidding. No, but I brought it up because there's a company here in Brazil that I really love, and they make shoes, and they're vegan and they're made here, and they show up they posted videos on how they manufacture it, and I love it, and they're beautiful, they're comfortable, and they are a little bit more, I mean, expensive, but they are not really expensive because of their material and how it's done. So, and they last so much. So like Bernardo was saying in the beginning, and they were recently bought by a bigger company. And they posted, and it was pretty amazing because at first I was like, oh my God, you know, just like, I'm not going to buy from them anymore. But then the CEO and founder said that she started with a mission, and now she will be able to make it even bigger. You know, she'll be able to grow her mission, because one of the things that she was looking at is companies that really truly believe in her mission and what she's doing, and nothing's going to change. And it is in the contract that she's going to make the shoes the same way. She's going to be valuing the same stuff. She's still going to be vegan, and her team is going to be the same. No one was going to get fired, but she will have more marketing resources, more operation resources, the way she would like to do it. And when I was reading the question on what are the solutions, I mean, that's just one of them, because, you know, I think we can say plenty of solutions, but I was just really curious, me personally, Nicole, wanting to know what's your perspective on, you know, being bought by a bigger company. So I was just curious, really. But I would love to listen what you guys have to say about the possible solutions of all the problems we were talking about, you know, government and consumption and industries. And what do you think would be ideal for us to skip and power through those problems?
Well, let me, you know, one thing that is, I think that first of all, we shouldn't be threatened by this kind of situations where a big company buys a small company. And, you know, I think at this point, I would say we need to work on the assumption that there's good intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's very important, you know, for example, for us in the company that I work with in Biofabric, you know, we could be partnering with so many people, with so many projects that are not closing the business cycle, because plastic is really a difficult thing to treat.
Mhm.
So, for example, if we were to partner with a chain of supermarkets, you know, and then you have supermarkets investing their social responsibility funds in creating the circular economy where they will pay the consumer for the plastic that they're bringing back. The supermarket will be transforming this plastic into fuel that could be sold into for profit. So, you know, these are circles that could be created. And that's one of the partnerships. Another partnership is people that are cleaning, you know, like a small entrepreneur, a small city. You know, cities are depressed right now. There are so many cities that are depressed where there's lots of thousands of people that have no jobs, but we are filled with plastic. So people could start collecting plastic and selling it for a profit. And for us in Europe, perhaps, you know, making $5 a day is nothing. But in other parts of the world, $5 a day, it's a lot. You know, it's something that they will that defines living or dying. So I think that definitely the government and the private sector, not only the government, I think the government is too slow. The private sector has the responsibility to put a agile and interesting ways, so the society, so the base of the society can regenerate, you know, and we can rebuild those communities that are really depressed at this moment. So private sector definitely has a huge responsibility, and I would say historically we in countries we're always looking at the government to take care of it. I think that is wrong. I think that responsibility should be shared, and should be shared really, you know, I mean, there's some corporations in the world that have bigger budgets than some countries in the world. So I don't see why not sharing the responsibility. So I think those are the barriers that, you know, I think the barrier is on our head to think that the government needs to solve everything. So I think the consumer and the private sector are really two key factors to actors that can make a difference.
That's really powerful, Hilda. I agree. We had two comments and I couldn't agree with them more. They say that we need more customer awareness and marketing so we know where to go. And I totally agree, because sometimes, information is very hard for us. Like, we don't know where to be guided. And internet, I mean, we can't trust the internet, right? But we can to the same time. So the bigger industries they have more structure and marketing teams to try to, let's say, manipulate consumption or guide people to buy something. But if, for example, if you had one person with the same amount of information from big industries and from you guys, I am sure, because I really believe in people, I am sure they would rather buy it from you. But because we don't have a lot of customer awareness, then it's hard to get to them. So I agree with the comment of whoever did it on YouTube. Do we have any more solutions?
I think
your turn.
No, I was going to mention us.
Well, go for it. Yes.
So I think one of the, I mean, me and Dia and Motion Refresh and Aqua and Rock are joining forces for exactly that, to create a bigger power, buying power, listening power, marketing power, and consumption power. I think what we've seen now is instead of the big companies buying the small companies, you're seeing small companies joining up forces and going out there. And obviously Aqua and Rock sell clothing, and then obviously they work on the same principles that we do. And we sell flip-flops. So we came together as a joint venture, as you would put it, trying to achieve the same goals. And I think the more people, I think smaller companies do that, I think they give us more big powers for the big companies to listen and perhaps invest some of their money and some of their thoughts and marketing and etc. So.
And what Bernardo just said, and what we were talking about, bigger companies buying smaller companies, that's one way of obviously sharing this sustainable future. But also what, as Bernardo just said, smaller companies coming together, and another source, because we are struggling with the financing, because we don't have that financial power to kind of spreading and talking about what a wonderful job we do here. But as I said, it's not just the bigger companies buying smaller companies, but also the financial markets needs to obviously step up as well and invest into companies like ours, because that's also the other way, because money needs to go. And then the government, usually the financial markets follows if the government supports with the grants. I mean, I have to say personally, Aqua and Rock have received a very small grant to begin with. And that was great, because otherwise I will never be able to launch a company the way it is now. Having said that, that's a really, I wouldn't say a drop in the ocean, but I need a lot more drops to grow to a level that I'm starting to make an impact. And obviously, one way we found is Painel and I partnering together and sharing. And then I was speaking to other companies. I'm open to any suggestions that will complement and make us stronger and make us bigger. We share the same ethos. It's not about the competition. Yes, we all need to make profit, but we need to all kind of grow together in a positive direction.
Marsha, do you want
to? I think that is, cooperation is the name of the game. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I think bigger company doing joint venture or acquiring small companies, I think those are game changer. So I see some points here. Why is it like that? Because first of all, when like big companies acquire the small companies, or they do partnership or do joint venture with them. So first of all, you get the renowned name with them. Like, so whatever they have worked, the pioneer name. So whatever they have worked and what they've achieved so far. So with them, you get a credibility in the market, and people recognize you more faster. And then you're able to basically like succeed, like you should like get your vision, like come true basically with the bigger brand, because they help not only help you with their name, but also with the financially and like marketing wise, and then consumer base and everything. So I think big companies acquiring small companies, a solution which really can like a game changer for me.
That's very interesting. And it actually gave me a few insights. One of the reasons why I am part of Route is regardless if we have amazing solutions, if we don't have people to buy it because you're not aware or not engaged, then it's only so much we can do as a company, right? So one of the reasons why I'm part of Route is I'm truly, really proud of all the engagement that we do with people so they can start looking at different perspectives or being more aware. And I think that's also part of the solution. And bringing people together like here today, and providing all this amazing information to whoever is out there listening to us. I think that's also one of the solutions I would like to mention, and one of the reasons why I'm part of it. Now, one of the insights that I got from talking to you guys is how can I, as part of Route, how can we create something that could benefit businesses? Because we have so many different professionals within our networking. And for example, if we have someone specialized in marketing or sales or even production, how can we have those people helping smaller companies on how to be better, right? And I think that's just an insight that I had that could be very, very good. And I would like to know if it's something that you would like to have from us, for example.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, perhaps to even do unite business of the future, and perhaps do more forums. As I know Simone, and I know Roots, and I know the connection he has, and obviously the people that he knows. And I think it's very important. And going back to what I said with COVID, I think we've learned to communicate, and there's no borders anymore. Like it used to be. You need to go to somewhere, you need to be somewhere to be able to talk to someone, to have a business meeting, to close a deal. You don't need to do that anymore. You can do it over the internet like we're doing now, sharing ideas and making notes, exchanging, creating business, doing business deals, talking for innovations and etc. I think we've learned a lot. I mean, I think we've learned it the hard way, like we humans always do. And we take it always the back door, don't we? We never take the front door. And I think with this, we've learned it the hard way. And obviously, we've lost a lot of lives. We're still losing a lot of lives, unfortunately. But I think it's taught us human beings how to connect with people again. I think we had lost that connectivity that we had in the past. And I think a lot of people, it's with businesses, with people not being able to see relatives, family, and etc. And I think we've learned to give a little bit more value. That communication is very important, and exchanging ideas is very important, because we all need it, especially small businesses like us.
That's good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Bernardo, because this situation that we've lived the past months has taught us how how important it is to trust the local knowledge. Before this happened, thousands of people were jumping into a plane and going somewhere to do business. And my question is, we've been able to continue without having to jump in the plane and to do business. So, for example, for us as a company selling high technology from Germany, it is so important to have a local partner, or to have a conversation with the community, because the solutions for that community do not match the solutions that you would have in a town in Germany or in Finland or in India. Every community, every place, it's unique. So I think that we need to customize, and we need to really listen to have local and the local communities develop their own solutions with whatever we are offering, technology or but create their, not bringing standardized solutions, Coca-Cola solutions into every community, but just taking every country, every community, every city, every neighborhood as a special person, or especially a unit. And those, so for us it would be really important to partner with people like you to get to this community, to find where is the need and how can we together create those circular economies, so we can inject we can actually uplift the local community. How can we work with the local government so they can create the awareness, the campaigns to actually bring back this plastic and not throw it in the ocean, or that doesn't end up anymore in the landfill. So it is a combined effort, but it's the local knowledge that has to develop this unique solution for every community. So yeah, it's very important to have partners like you, Natalia, and Nicole, sorry, to I was just reading that. It's super important. You are the local knowledge. You have it all in you. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Makes me feel like running right now and just like helping everyone. That's incredible. Thank you. We only have a few minutes left, and I just want to go over the last question, which is examples of solutions that have faced those barriers and examples of companies that succeeded despite you guys that already introduced here. If there are any other examples you would like to share. It's a hard one.
That is a hard one.
We are so good. It's difficult.
What do you mean? Companies that made it, or?
Yeah, despite yours, companies that have a mission, are looking to sustainability, to the environment, and are growing and are doing good business with a structured business model, despite you guys who are already here and are already example, but is there any other examples you would like to share?
Well, I think there are big companies that are doing it. Yeah. I think that it's moving, like this yogurt company that I'm telling you, other furniture companies are doing it in Europe. And I think the movement is towards that.
Yeah, and even there's a lot of old. I know a couple of, particularly here in Scotland, the old manufacturing company, textile company, 125 years old, and they've been working in a particular way. However, now they're switching to working as a sustainable manufacturer. It's only 20%, 80% is still obviously polyester, but they're slowly changing, because obviously you can't just switch from one thing to another overnight. But I've noticed that because we are one of the customers, and I've noticed that last year was 10%, this year's growing to 20%, and hopefully there will be 50 and 60, and eventually the goal is to obviously become 100% sustainable. We can't expect the world to change overnight, but we can't go back either. So the thing is, just take one step at a time, but keep walking and speed up a bit. Yes, I think that's the solution.
Perfect. I like to keep walking.
You can jog a bit as well.
No, it's great. I truly think that's the way to go. We have so many barriers today, culture barriers. It's not easy to open a company like yours. And then facing those barriers, it's much harder than just opening a fast fashion industry, for example, and just having like, oh, which post should I have for marketing, because people are already demanding because the prices are cheap, So just like keep walking. It's actually an amazing message that people just have to keep and go through the barriers to be able to go ahead and build that company,
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, Nicole, which I think is really good, is what can you do for us as small companies and small SMEs, as we call it in the UK, is to help promote. I think it's putting, you've got the power of being a charity and putting us, uniting the dots, as you would put it, putting us together, because you speak to companies obviously sponsor yourselves and talk to you, and obviously sometimes they listen more to a charity than they would to a small company like us, for instance. So I think promoting and obviously putting joining the dots, as we say here in England, joining the dots and putting our word and who we are. And I think you'll probably, as I know Simone, he knows so many small companies like ours, and he works with so many different types of companies. And I think it's important perhaps to do perhaps meeting like this once a month, you know, where you unite everybody, get everybody together and have a chat, you know, and start a forum where he can join the dots. Yeah. And I think that's very important.
Well, I could maybe suggest one example that Project CESA has in Holland and Germany and UK recently launched. It's kind of almost like a platform where people can actually go and find nice sustainable companies like us, because you need to look at consumers have, in people who do want to buy sustainable product, they actually have challenges of finding. I know several of the Facebook sustainable groups, they actually constantly ask me, does anyone know where can I find such and such product that has a sustainability as a core? So charities like yours perhaps could be a pioneer in starting to kind of creating a platform where people all over the world can actually find the good guys like us and a smaller company. So that's sort of one of the powerful marketing tool you already have, is just, as I said, put everyone in and as I said, platform of and more kind of conversations like this where we can actually talk about, has it well changed? Have we made another step? You know, are we still walking? And how can we start running and make things better? Because we are facing challenges every day, but the challenges sometimes do change, and I'm hoping for the better. So yes, you have a marketing power, use it in our favor.
Perfect. I like that idea. One of the examples that I've seen throughout coronavirus is that Instagram has this thingy where you can share smaller companies around you, so you can buy from locals, right? And I think that was amazing. I personally met where I live so many different companies I've never heard of because of that tool. So that was pretty fantastic. I just hope they keep doing that regardless of a virus or not, right?
Yeah.
Guys, I am so happy. This is like gave me a boost of energy. You have no idea. It was such an honor talking to you. So I would really like to just thank your presence here, your talk. If you guys need to share any more information, you can count on me or Route to help you guys. This panel was created by Global Route and realized also by Agência Água, Bloom Ocean, and Surfstone House, who helped us. And our special partners, Route Brazil, Route Portugal, and Route USA. Hopefully we have more routes throughout the years, but I would really like to thank you again. And if you guys need anything, if you need to call me, LinkedIn me, I think you guys are also available. We're here to share experiences and information, and just thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure meeting you all.
Yes.
Pleasure meeting you all too.
Yes, likewise.
Let's keep in touch. Let's exchange emails.
Yeah,
let's start this. You know, that's what Nicole always said. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
Let's keep us updated.
Share resources.
Yes.
And one of the questions that we had, how can we help, for everyone who's watching this, following you guys on Instagram and going to the store and then buying products. I think that's one of the amazing ways that you can help. And so we hope to see each other soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.